Okay, Blood on the River, chapter 14, page 105. The new president committed the managing of all things abroad to Captain Smith, who, by his own example, good words, and fair promises, set some to mow, others to bind thatch, some to build houses, others to thatch them, himself always bearing the greatest tasks for his own share. And William Siemens wrote this. And what he's saying there is that Captain Smith would never ask his men to do anything more than he himself would do. And he set a great example. So he took the brunt of the hardest of chores, the heaviest of lifting, the most strenuous of tasks. And don't you think that's a good example? When you see someone working really hard, it makes you want to join in that effort. Captain Newport does not return in October with new supplies, but instead of being hungrier, we have finally gotten through the sickness, and we are healthy again. The tribes who are our friends must have convinced our enemies to stop attacking, and it is no longer dangerous to leave the fort or hunt or fish. We have a pitiful harvest of wheat and vegetables from our gardens, and the Indians bring us food from their own harvest to trade. You know where we are? Bottom page 105. Stay with me, please. The air is filled with birds flying south for the winter. Sprinkles dry. Whoops, that didn't make sense. Birds flying south for the winter, and it is easy to shoot enough for a meal. We have more rain, and the river water is good to drink. What was that river water called before it rained so much? Brackish. Very good. It's when you've got the salt water mixed with the fresh water. Captain Smith has been in charge of trading with the Indians. If we ever run short of corn or meat, he takes a few men and some beads and copper for trading and sails off in the shallop for a few days to visit some of the Indian villages. What's a shallop? A smaller boat. Why would they need a shallop and just not use the ship? The ship is too big, right? Say what?
It'd be like a full-on attack because they use the big ship instead of.
Well, no, it's just the big ship is so cumbersome, I think is what they're saying. The shallop is used for. It's like the hole isn't as deep and it's easier to maneuver through the narrow rivers. You couldn't get the big ships in there. It'd just be too cumbersome, too large. Or maybe you're saying it'd be like overkill, going overboard. Maybe that's what you're saying. Okay, I gotcha. Okay, Captain Smith is also in charge of getting houses built for all of us. With the weather turning colder, we can't sleep. We can't keep sleeping in our riding tents. He sets for us the goal of houses for everyone and cheers us on, exhorting us to push ahead. Sounds like a great coach. You know those really good coaches, you know, that gets their team to win each time that they get up going to the Super Bowl. I'm not talking about any particular coach of mine or any particular team, but they are patriots, aren't they?
No.
We work together hard. Captain Smith always working the hardest, with some felling trees, some splitting wood for clapboard, some cutting reeds for thatch. We use shaped timbers to frame the houses, and the carpenters teach us how to weave sticks together to make a mesh, and then coat the mesh with a mixture of river clay and straw, and to make the wattle and daub walls. You see where we are? Yeah. We bundle the reeds to make thatched roofs. I have never helped to build a house before, and it makes me proud to see my work. I see Captain Smith meant about us needing to stand on many legs to survive. We have to work together. I would never be able to build a house all by myself. Some of the gentlemen work hard with us too, until their hands are as rough as a commoner's hands. And by the time the weather turns cold, we have put up warm, dry houses for everyone, even the servants. In the early December, Captain Smith chooses 9 men to sail with him in a shallop up the Chickahominy River. They are hoping to find the passage to the Pacific Ocean and the Orient, and they think that the Chickahominy might lead us to it. Now, am I pronouncing that exactly right?
No.
Doubtful? Does it matter?
No.
Why not?
Because it's just a name.
It's just a name. If it's a proper noun, does it impact our comprehension?
No.
If I really am struggling with it, I could just call it the Sea River, right? And that could just help me keep on reading. Because it's a proper noun. How do we know it's a proper noun? If it's capitalized, it's a proper noun, right? It's a specific name. And some of these Native American words are really tricky to pronounce. When I asked Captain Smith why this passage to the Pacific is so important, he explains to me. The nobles in England want spices and silks and ivory. The best place to get them is in the Orient, China and India. Between England and the Orient, going east over land, there are Ottoman Turks. The Turks gladly sell us all the Chinese silks and Indian spices we want. They buy it for tuppence and then sell it to England for bags of gold. Wow, what does that word tuppence mean? They buy it for tuppence and sell it to England for bags of gold. I've never heard of that word tuppence before. Have you? I don't see a whole lot of explanation for it in here. If I think about context clues, if I break it down, honestly, all I'm thinking about is the word Tupperware. So that's not helping me. So how can I figure out what this word tuppence means? What strategies can I use? Reread the sentence. So let's reread it. They buy it for tuppence and then sell it to England for bags of gold. Write it down. What do you think the word tuppence means? What do you think, Micah?
Maybe like a jewel.
They buy it for a jewel and sell it for gold? Okay. I don't know if that makes sense, though. The Turks gladly sell it to the Chinese. They buy it for a tuppence and then sell it. They buy it for a treasure. Ooh, you're totally on the right track, Presley. Very good. No, I don't know that that makes the most sense. Presley, you're so much warmer than everyone else. Maybe they could use your help. Show the class. And Nathan's getting there, too. Very good. Tristan has it. So, yes, Cameron has it. They buy it for like a penny. For hardly anything. Good, Mackenzie. So they pay very little for it, right? And then they turn around and they sell it for, what they say, bags of gold. So they're getting quite a profit margin. And it's making the English mad. They're like, why should they be making so much money off of us?
I know.
Hey.
I know another way you could like find out what it means. You could like maybe like buy cheaper stuff and like put it in a sentence.
And plug it in. Like they buy it for cheaper and then they sell it for gold. Yeah, they buy it for pennies and they end up selling it for so much. So they have a great profit margin. Does everyone understand what profit means?
Yes, ma'am.
It's when you make what?
Money.
When you make money. Yeah, not always a fortune, but when you make money. Okay. If we can find a way to the Orient over the ocean going west, we can skip the Turks altogether. And that would make the Virginia Company investors very happy and very rich. Captain Smith and his men leave on a frosty morning, and we all wish them well. Once Captain Smith is gone, though, the gentlemen stop working, and even the commoners shirk their chores. What about shirk? What does that mean? Good, they blow them off. Like, I don't have to work now. The big boss is gone. I can just chill. You don't do that when you're around your family, do you?
No.
You don't say, like, Mom and Dad are gone, now I can stop vacuuming, do you?
Yeah, sometimes.
Yeah, I think we all have done that before. Okay. If it wasn't for us servants, the food wouldn't get cooked, and the water wouldn't get toted, and the wood wouldn't get chopped for the fires. And one cold morning in December, Richard and I are working with the embers that are all that is left of our cabin's fires, trying to bring them to the flame. Richard sprinkles dry moss on the embers, and I blow on them gently. Now that makes sense. Why would they sprinkle dry moss on the embers?
Because it's dry and because if it's wet, the fire won't like burn.
It gives the fire a little bit of what?
Yes.
Like gas or fuel for it. Very good. Yes. It feels good to be cooperating with Richard, to be his what?
Friend.
Friend. shows you a great evidence for this character development. Would he have thought that was so great early on in this book?
No.
No way! Sam didn't care about being friends with anybody. All that mattered was himself, right? And now he's helping build a fire together with Richard. Come on, fire, Richard coaxes. I rubbed my hands together to warm them. It was Abram and Henry's turn to feed the fire during the night, but they, just like everybody else, didn't think much of their chores these days. The twigs catch. We add some bigger chips of wood. Keep blowing, and soon we have a good fire going. I cough on the smoke. We don't have a proper hearth, and the chimney like Mom and I used to have in our cottage. This is just a circle of stones in the dirt floor. And to let the smoke out, there is a hole at the top of the eaves. Our cabin is always smoking. It doesn't even have any windows. It has begun to leak in heavy rains, but it is still a lot better than a rotting tent. Within minutes, there is a voice at the door. We need an ember, comes the demand. Richard and I look at each other. Every morning it's the same. As soon as anyone sees smoke coming from our cabin, they come for embers because they let their fires go completely out during the night. Now you can imply if these men let their fires go out through the night, then they are what? Write down a character trait for these men and go ahead and stop it, Micah.